Hi, Stowe. Today we're going to review Key Item, the first science fiction story you read a couple weeks ago, to make sure that everybody understands the important points that you're supposed to get out of this story. So just to review, this story was written in the 1960s before we had put a person on the moon. Computers were invented, but they were very big and very expensive, so they were used in commercial by scientists and businesses, not in people's homes, but people knew about them, and there was a lot of interest in what computers might one day be able to do. And that's where a lot of science fiction writers like Isaac Asimov got a lot of their material, was in thinking about what might happen. So in this particular story, we have the computer robot Multivac, and he's supposed to do things, but he's not functioning and they can't figure out why. And it turns out that they needed a key item, which was to say the word please. And once they said the word please, the robot did it. And so one of the questions I asked you was, why is this surprising? So if you said, well, this isn't really surprising, you need to think about the story and when it was written and what people would have been thinking about at the time. So you have to go back and look into the text for some clues about what the author is really thinking about. So here's an exchange between the two main characters, Weaver and Nemerson. And it starts with, oh, come on, next she'll be saying Multivac is human. Why not? Could we tell if Multivac passed the thin dividing line where it stopped being a machine and started being human? If there is there a dividing line for that matter? If the brain is just more complex than Multivac and we keep making Multivac more complex, isn't there a point where he mumbled down into silence? So you can see here, by using the character's conversation, the author is getting you to think about, what is the dividing line between a robot and a human? What's the difference? How will we know if we crossed over? So the ending is surprising because robots and humans are not the same. So a robot shouldn't expect you to say please. It wasn't programmed to do that. So is that one of the things that makes a robot different than a human? So the central message that Asimov wants you to think about is, what is the line between robots and humans? How will we know if we crossed it? And what might happen if we do? In this one, it was, you could say, a happy ending because all they had to do was say please and the robot worked. But if the robot keeps changing, or the next robot they program has a different feature, who knows what could have happened? It could have been a bad ending. So we've talked about, some of you in your videos, about robots taking over the world and doing bad things to harm people. And so Asimov, really, his message in the story was, we need to think about what's the line between a robot and a human, and is that line going to be crossed, and can it, and should it? And that's what he wants you to think about. So that's your takeaway from this story. You're going to head back to Google Classroom now to compare the central message of this story to the central message of Ray Bradbury's story about the Earthlings that moved to Mars and become Martians in Dark They Were and Goldeneye.